Hello, everybody. Okay, so we're finally back with our Abundant Motherhood segment. Many of you guys were messaging me this on this latest hiatus, wondering when it was going to be back. And so it is back. So I'm here today with Jordan. She's finally here.
Yes, hello.
Yay! So it's been quite some time and we know so much has happened. So we're kind of like going to launch this episode with like first kind of just a catch up. I mean, Jordan and I have seen each other, but just sort of a catch up with you guys. And then go through some other topics just for this first episode back. And then the next one that we do, we'll have a really exciting guest for you guys. But so we thought we'd start off by just kind of catching up. So Jordan, tell us what you've been up to this year. I know we'll talk about like 2020 because we didn't have any episodes during COVID. So I want you had to go living in California for that. But what have y'all been up to, lately since you've moved back to Tennessee?
Yeah, we just moved back last September, so almost a year ago now, which is crazy. And then Brian's been working at Scenic City Orthodontics, which is a local orthodontic practice. And then I have just been doing the mom thing. And then I recently started teaching kinder music, which is music classes for kids 0 to 7. So that's been kind of my like independent endeavor here, and that's been really fun. Gina and I had classes together in the spring, and that was kind of like our play date time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. Just hanging out, lots of family time, fun to be around friends, and just be back in the South.
Yeah. And then Jack just started cello lessons, right?
He did. I'm actually sitting right next to his cute little cello.
Oh,
He did. He just had his third lesson, and we're practicing like 10 minutes a day. And he is just he's loving it. I know he will always love it, but right now he's very eager, and I'm very eager. So it's really fun.
well, maybe he will. I feel like there's some people that just really do love it. Obviously,
It's true.
like Devin,
Yeah, he does.
like
Yeah.
just always did practice and was obviously phenomenal. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
he ever really like hated practice? I mean, I'm sure she got busy and sometimes was like, oh, I feel like I should do this instead of practice, but I don't think she like dreaded practice. But maybe she did. I'll have to
Yeah.
ask her 'cause now I'm really curious.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah.
That's awesome. Is Aria, I guess, probably pretty excited wanting to do it too, or does she just like what is she super into that you can?
Yes, she would love to take that, but every time I ask her if she wants to take violin, because that's my plan for her, she always says, "Yeah, I think I'll do ballet."
Good idea,
She
mom.
keeps on asking for dance. So I am actually looking for if there's any classes out there that take like 2.5 or 3 year olds. She's just so little, and a lot of them start at age 4. So anyway, that's what she wants to do. She really wants to take dance. So I'm on the search for something for itty bitty dancers.
Yeah, I know that I forget what it's called because when I was looking for Belia, there is something out your way, but I think it's like a mommy and me or whatever kind of
Yes.
for
Mm-hmm.
adults. And Malia, she did dance, but then and she's still we've paused it for now just because in the summer they just kind of had like camps, which was like longer hours, and they were
Yeah.
the days that I worked, so that didn't really work out, which kind of was fine because then we really wanted to hit swimming lessons hard, and so
Mm-hmm.
the other activities like the kinder music and the dance, which is what we were doing for the spring, and have just hit the swimming hard. But I'm excited because when she does turn 4 in November, then she can join their actual primary class instead of pre-primary. And those are the ones that actually do recitals. So like they had a little
Yes.
to come see what they were working on like every semester. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, like she didn't get to have the whole experience of like on stage and getting her uniform or
Yes.
costume or whatever they call it. I can't.
Yes.
But so I can't wait for her to. She's gonna eat that alive. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
really fun to kind of get her back in for the fall. So yeah, well, that's super exciting. Well, and then for me, I've just been for you listeners, Jordan again already knows all this stuff, but I've had a second baby since we've had this podcast segment, and she is super chill. I didn't know that babies could be this chill. Jordan and I were talking, we were just like, people who haven't ever had a high maintenance child don't know that there are some kids that it's just that kind of kid. It's not because you're not doing something right or you're not
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever. Like they're just high maintenance and they're like have just totally different innate needs as opposed to like Sailor just out of the womb, didn't have to be held all the time, was happy to just sit there and watch life go by. And like that just was not and is not Malia. And like, so that kind of worked out nicely though, as far as the order. I'd rather have my like lioness tornado child first and then like this,
Mm-hmm.
or else I would have been completely shell shocked. I would have been like, I got this. And then been really like body slammed. But so yeah, this time I had my expectation really high of like, okay, we're just gonna have to man through those first 3 months. And then she was just like so awesome. Now it was more difficult with Sailor because when you have one, as you already know, you get sick a lot faster just because the other one's in already. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've been, as we were talking, sick once a month, every single month since the start of this year. Like
Yes.
by the time she was a week old, had a cold. It was so bad. And just pretty much colds every month, except for this July. We were both like, July is the month of horrors.
Oh,
So
it's
we've
been horrible.
all been sick and ear infections left and right. Like Malia's never had an ear infection, but then of course she's also swimming tons. So I guess, and I wasn't doing good about putting the alcohol in her ears, but yeah. So then the ear infection, Sailor right now has a double ear infection again because she got a cold while she had the other ear infection. So it kind of got better, but then like came back. So it's just, that's sort of what we've been doing over here. It's just doing the 2 kid thing. So it's been really fun. But one thing we wanted to talk about this episode, since we didn't, was kind of like what each of our experiences were like for the whole like deep COVID pandemic. I know it's sort of trying to continue on now, but I think everybody just sort of like moved on. It's just kind of out there, but we're all like, okay, we've got things to do. But so like when it was really going on and say the end of 2019, 2020, what was it like being in California, which I know was even more strict and different than here in Tennessee, which was still very strict, but like, what was that like, especially out there since you didn't have family with the 2 kids? Brian's still in school. So tell everybody kind of what that was like, how you all had to pivot and what in the world was that like?
Yeah. So it all happened when Aria was 3 months old. So it was kind of ironic because, those first 3 months you kind of stay in anyway.
Right.
I had just taken her to Target for the first time. We had just gone on a play date for the first time. And then like 2 days later, the whole world shut down. And of course, me being a natural like freaker outer, I was flipping out. Like Brian and I were, I did go to the grocery store one last time because I heard that this was happening. And so that literally that night I went and I stocked up and everything was already empty. You saw it.
Yeah.
No toilet paper, no paper towels, like no diaper, just crazy, crazy stuff. And yeah, and Brian's school shut down. So he continued, he had like 1 week off while they figured their stuff out. And then he basically had class online until the summer. And then in the fall, they started up clinic again. And then he still did online classes. But yeah, we of course took it very seriously because we didn't know anything about it. So like, we were going to the store just every other week, like buy like 2 times a month, and we would rotate who it was, and then whoever went to the store like had to come and like strip down their clothes and throw them straight in the wash, take a shower. I Lysoled everything. It was looking back, I'm like, wow, it was like not even spreading then because we were all inside. But yeah, it was, looking back, it was okay. Aria was colicky and fussy, so it was definitely a challenge with Brian doing classes and having to have that peace and quiet, him needing that, and us having nowhere to go. They shut down the playgrounds in our neighborhood, so we basically just had our yard, and then we could walk around our neighborhood, but no playgrounds, no nothing. So yeah, we tried to get creative, but there comes to a certain point where it's just like, what are you gonna do in this house? Crazy.
Right.
So that was a challenge for sure. But looking back, I don't even remember. I remember thinking it was really bad, but I don't remember much about it. Kind of like birth. You remember it was really bad, but you forget all the horrible like feelings about it. And I actually read, little side note, I got the kids this book about the brain, and it said that your brain actually bathes every night, which is weird. But it does. Like the brain fluid washes around at night, and your brain literally will wash away negative emotions from that day, ones that it doesn't think is pertinent to survival. So like if you had a bad day and you get good rest and you wake up feeling better, that's because your brain took care of it. Same thing with women giving birth. And a lot of times why it sticks with us because we don't get good rest and our brain doesn't get a chance to do that. Anyway, all that being said, like I remember the pandemic first part being lots of tears from everyone, maybe except Brian. He may even shed a few. Oh, he broke out in shingles too. Like a week after the pandemic, he was like, "Man, my neck really hurts." And then the next morning he had shingles all over. And I don't know whether it was from stress, probably.
Yeah.
Oh my. But we didn't get sick. My kids didn't get a single cold for the 2 years that we lived in
Yeah.
California. Nothing. And then, like you said, we moved here literally since September, once a month, save maybe 1 month. We have had something. It's been
Mhm.
crazy. So that's my pandemic experience has been the pandemic was fine, but now the aftermath has been
Right. Having to get
wow.
back up again from other things.
The immune system has been
Uh,
crazy. And then of course the whole I forgot we did masks, but yeah, California was still wearing masks when I moved here. Like
wow.
we went to Disneyland last June, fully masked in the open air in like 95 degrees.
Ugh.
I mean, it was our own choice, but to
Right.
go. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, that was our what was it? How about you? Share your pandemic experience.
Well, Tennessee definitely in the beginning was like doing what everybody else was doing as far as like everybody had to wear masks, like even outside, inside, outside, especially for in stores or anywhere. And then we kind of did the same thing. Like we went to the store and you just got what you could. I remember like, I don't even remember what it was, but some astronomical amount you like spent on groceries in one fell
Yes.
swoop. So
Yes.
like can't like you felt like you were literally preparing for the apocalypse. Like all these I think we just like maybe a couple months ago, like got to like the normal semblance of canned goods that should be in
Yes.
the pantry. You know what I mean? Like finally,
Yeah.
just like, okay, this is a normal pantry of canned goods. But so did that whole thing too. And I mean, luckily for us at that point, um, we like didn't have the baby yet. So we weren't trying to get diapers. Of course, what we've had to deal with is as far as this year goes, the whole formula shortage thing.
Oh,
There's like
yeah.
there's not one thing, there's next, but at least we weren't, yeah, worried about diapers at that time. But I'm trying to think. So I guess that was 2021. But so 2020, so we definitely weren't pregnant or anything. And so Malia had just gotten in like 1 month of swim lessons at that point, and then we had to stop doing that, stop doing it. We were excited because we were trying to get her into activities finally, and she's very
Mhm.
active. And so we're like, oh shoot. So then we were back home and my work like closed maybe for 1 week just to figure out what they were going to do as well. And Kellen's work, they kind of shifted the whole thing. He ultimately did have to switch jobs for his. So that was kind of a big
Mm.
like upset, like just have to figure out what to do kind of thing. But so luckily then my work did go back to work. So there's just one week, but it was of course like all the washing, like our hands were cracked from washing your
Mm.
all the time. And same thing, it was like, okay, so as soon as I got off work, like don't bring the kids to or Malia to me. And I like I actually brought a change of clothes to work and I would change in the bathroom before I left. And then
Mm.
that was for my slip on and off shoes. So like then I could slip them off right before getting in the car. And then I'd get home and then I'd still shower as soon as I got home. And then I could like, get Malia and stuff. And so yeah, just to all the extraordinary efforts there
Yes.
and just trying to keep her busy. Like I remember I felt it was kind of as far as just being at home, it was kind of fun a little bit because it sort of brought me back to like our childhood when you didn't have all of these extra things. I mean, we had activities to go do, but like as far
Mhm.
as I don't know, just got back to the simple days of just like, let's play in the yard and let's get creative because you were home so much. You had to just think of games to play and like stuff to do. And, so that was kind of fun with Malia, like got more into let's draw, let's think of what activities we can do. Let's print off coloring pages. And, just we really got into playing outside. So that was kind of a good thing as far as that went. But then I did get COVID and I got pregnant in January of 2021 and I got COVID while pregnant April 2021. And I
Mm.
got really sick. I guess it was that first version of COVID. So it was just very flu-like, but it was I was very weak and just fever, but luckily the fever wasn't super high. So really I just had to keep the fever down was the main thing. I didn't lose my appetite or anything like that. I felt really terrible. And Kellen was out of town originally. So
Oh.
and I tried to like, and we both lost our taste and smell at the same time. So he definitely had it too and he was supposed to be out for a conference, so he was doing the conference from his hotel room. Even though he felt okay, he was just fatigued, but he knew like I don't have taste or smell, I shouldn't go be with these people. So he stayed at the house and I was trying to not have him come back because I thought I was already taking care of Malia with it. And I thought the last thing you need to do is like bring another person that also has it and like increase her chances. But
Mm,
I ultimately had to be like, you got to come back. I just can't physically do it with her anymore. So he did come back, and to our knowledge, she didn't get it, but I'm sure that she did get it because I don't know how she wouldn't. She didn't ever act like she felt bad, but I mean, I never tested her. So,
yeah.
yeah, she acted fine. So she made it fine through that. And, but 2021 was more probably difficult than like 2020 as far as then once things started going back, figuring that out. And then like this year, like now that we have the baby, it's almost like it took a couple years for the real COVID impact to happen because then
Yes.
things shut down. So then the economy finally slowed, and now we've gotten to that part where everything's expensive and like we're missing. The formula is not available
Hmm.
because stuff happened at the formula plant. There's not enough plants open, and so luckily Kellen's mom is like super on the news and like we hardly watch news because it's just so negative. And so she watches it though. So she started picking up before they announced that the formula was going low. So she kind of told us. So every now and then we'd get like, instead of getting one, we might just get two, like way before. And so luckily we were kind of already in stock by the time things were really gone. And so we've had enough basically to make it to Sailor's one. I was breastfeeding until 7 months this time. With Malia, I made it to 9 months. This time I made it to 7 because I got that really terrible stomach bug.
Mm,
So it laid me out hard for 4 days. My mom had to come give me 2 different sets of IVs. I couldn't breastfeed, and it just took my milk supply. So unfortunately, I couldn't continue breastfeeding after that. But we still had the formulas that at least gave me comfort because I don't know what these poor moms had to do that, you know, didn't have
ugh,
stuff already stocked up. That'd be really stressful. Because I did ask our doctor when we went for one of her like her 6 month appointment. I was like, so just thinking worst case scenario, if there was like no formula anywhere, could you
mhm,
just buy some like drop vitamins, of whatever quantities, certain types of food, just really up the food? Is there like, what would you just with milk, or what could you do? She's
mm,
like, that can't be an option. Like, you will have to have formula. And I was like, kind of hoping there would be some, but she said,
mm,
like, don't let that can't be an option. So like, if you ever can't find it, let the doctor's offices know, because the reps send them like little tubs all the time as like samples. And so they were trying to like keep the samples coming. And so she even gave me a couple little ones and things. But
mm.
so that was more wild this time having Sailor at this point. But again, luckily we were kind of pre-planned for that. So that was kind of our pandemic experience. But at the end, but then we're same as you. Now that everybody's back out, I mean, Tennessee has gotten back to normal a lot faster than everywhere else. And so now we're in that phase of, I think everybody this year is just going to get all the sicknesses, and then by next year we'll just
Mhm.
get strong immunities. That's what I'm hoping.
Oh, I hope
Yeah,
so.
getting sick all the time now is all of us.
It's just,
Kellen's the one
it's
that
constant.
survives, but I pretty much get it every time with the kids.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple that I haven't, but almost every single one I've gotten as well. It's unavoidable. It's sad that if you do anything around other people, whether it's playground or like we did VBS or a swimming lesson, anything where you're in contact with another human, you will. I've just come to terms. I'm like, unless we are literally in our house, we will be getting sick once a month. That's just, I almost pencil it in my calendar.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, mid month, we will have a virus of
Yeah.
some kind.
That actually was one thing I wanted to bring up. Just again, it's kind of nice to do a podcast because it's like, I feel like I should have documented this. I mean, I'd like journal about it because I was like, this is obviously history, like for our kids later. Be like, you guys did what? You wore masks for like 2 years
Yeah.
straight everywhere, and like all these extremities or extreme cases we've gone to of like not being allowed to go places or whatever. But that was hard for, like, by the time Aaliyah and all of that happened, she was big enough to want to play with other kids, and that was one of the hardest things for me.
Hmm.
At We weren't really seeing many people besides just our family. We at least did that. I know some people wouldn't even do that, but we were like, look, we do have to live
Yeah.
with people we love and are available. And so did that. But otherwise it was like, if we were at the doctor's office or we had to go somewhere, the grocery store, whatever, if she had to be with me and she'd want to go say hi to somebody, she's very social. And I thought, man, I really don't want to damage her like kindness to not kindness to people, but like welcomeness to people, and be
Hmm.
like, keep away from them. I didn't want to like, but at the same time, you're like, also, even when things started to clear up, you never know everybody's opinion on it too. So it's like, I was afraid for my kid to run up to somebody else's kid and be like, hey, let's give a hug. How are you? And especially because she'll do that want to do that to strangers or new kids, just being sweet, say at the playground. I'm like, but you don't know if their mommy's going to be okay with that, or so it was a strange
Hmm.
thing to not
Oh, so strange.
navigate
Yeah,
that.
I feel like um, it was kind of like blessing in disguise. But we had some neighbors that lived next door that I got to know and a little bit before COVID. But once COVID hit, they were cooped up too, and our fence, we share a fence, and about 3 months into the pandemic, we start to see their kids peeking over, and yeah, their little boy was, I think he was 6 at the time, and Jack was 3. Anyway, but he would just hop over the fence, and my neighbor Heather would call and be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Do you care?" And I was like, "Do you care? Because if they're playing outside and you guys aren't sick, then please let them come over." So that was like the one source of interaction that they got, and they got into it was actually kind of a blessing because we got to know. I don't think I would have ever, because me, it takes me a long time to make friends, and I think without that I would have never gotten to know their family, because then I don't know. It's one of those families that we'll always keep in touch with, and my kids got some social interaction, and they were really sweet. So I totally get that because Jack likes to be friendly too, and we go to the playground and definite cold vibes. But at least I knew that at home we'd see little Ezra peeking over, and he'd hop over and give Jack a little bit of social normalcy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Funny. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, so then we were just gonna also, while I have it in my memory too, like share a little bit about Sailor's birth story. I told myself I almost recorded
yes.
something by myself because I was like, if I would go too long, I'm not gonna remember some of the details. But it was definitely different from Malia's, but the pregnancy was a lot easier than with Malia. I felt so much more fluid retention with Malia. So this
Mm,
go round, I didn't like lose feeling in my hands halfway through, which was awesome. I gained 35 pounds. With Malia, I gained 40. So I had a feeling like that Sailor might be a little smaller than Malia, but I also didn't know because I was like, well, maybe I have less fluid and this is actually more like the baby's weight than like the fluid weight that I had with Malia. But she was a little bit smaller than Malia. She was 6 pounds 13 ounces, and Malia was 7 ounces too. So very close, but neither of them were big babies. So the pregnancy was good. It was obviously the hardest part about I was a lot more sick with Sailor.
mm.
Terribly sick with Sailor. I wasn't that sick with Malia, just really fatigued, but terribly sick with Sailor. That was really hard. With her. And then by the time I was starting to feel a little bit better was when I got COVID. Like right as soon as I
Huh.
was getting out of the nausea phase, then I got COVID. But after that, everything was pretty smooth. And then my due date was October 19, but I just felt like she was going to come early like Malia. Malia was at like 38 weeks and 6 days, and Sailor was literally 38 weeks and 5 days. So just right about the same.
Mm,
So I was already, which was kind of nice because I was like, I'm ready. I wasn't thinking I was honestly going to make it to the due date, let alone over it. And so for Malia, I went into labor, or I had her on a Thursday. So Sailor, I ended up having her on a Monday, but Sunday I had so many like contractions, and they were like
mm,
30 minutes apart. So it was kind of nice because then I already like knew what they were, and I thought, okay, it's Sunday. I would really like this to get going so I'm not at work Monday when I know like I'm in legit like labor.
yeah.
I stayed on my feet and I took a walk with Malia and like really tried to stay busy. And then Raquel, oh, I don't remember the name. I'll have to look at it, told me this really great app that records your contractions. Because last time with Malia, that was
Mm,
really hard. It's like I'm sitting there on my phone, hitting the timer during every like contraction, trying to be like, okay, that one lasted a minute and it's done that, you know, every 4 minutes or all, and you're trying to average it out. And that's where I almost waited too long with Malia to go in. But there's an app that'll, you just hit start and stop basically, and it averages everything,
mm.
tells you. So then you just know when to go in because, they try to tell you ish, get to 4 minutes or happening every 4 minutes, lasting a minute for an hour. And you're like, how am I
Yeah.
going to think about all that when I'm in this peak labor pain?
Yeah,
So
it's
that
true.
was such a lifesaver this time. I was doing it all Sunday and I could tell, okay, they're 30 minutes. All right, now they're getting to 20 minutes and they're lasting. So it was so cool to like have that as an easy reference and
Mm,
not take my whole day up. And so then, same as Malia, by midnight, they were like every 10 minutes, and it was definitely like going to be happening. So I texted my manager at that point, was like, not coming in. So nip that in the bud. And then
yeah.
what was different with Sailor though is um I thought my water broke this time, which it didn't with Malia until I was already at the hospital. And so this time there was just so much like fluid everywhere all the time. And kept changing my underwear. And I was like, okay, this is what people have told me that when your water breaks, it's like, as opposed to
Mhm.
like the TV movies where it's just like all of a sudden everywhere and more feels like you've peed your pants over and over. And so
Mm.
like, well, that's definitely what it is. I like took a picture and sent it to the doctor. I was like, so on the couch at this point, I was like, is this my water? And she was like, I think it is. Go ahead and come in. At that point, the contractions were like 5 minutes apart. And so if I didn't think my water broke, I would have still pushed on a little bit longer. So by the time I went in, I was at like 2.5 centimeters, whereas with Malia, when I went in, I was at 5, which was nice because then
Mm.
I was already halfway, could get that up,
Mhm.
but had moved very quickly after that. So by the time I got there, then of course they sit you down. And so then everything slowed to be more like 6 minutes apart, but still the severity of like that we are far along. So then they started messing around with talking about, okay, well, we'll see if you progress in 1 hour. Otherwise, we'll have to send you home. And I'm thinking, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I don't know one single person that has ever been sent home that went well. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's true.
I'm not going home. I'll stay out in the parking lot if that's what I have to do and walk around here in pain. But so luckily in that hour, I did progress. And so they did let me stay. So I ended up getting the epidural at like 4 centimeters this time. And I was going to wait till 5, but they're like, with the second child, they're like, if you really do want one, it could all of a
Mhm.
sudden be far along and then too bad. And so
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I don't want that to happen. So I went ahead and got it. And this time the epidural, it like with Malia, it was always so even and I didn't have to do a lot of moving around. I remember you had to do that, like some moving around and
Mhm.
stuff. But okay, so I had to keep switching. It was like one side I would feel the epidural, but not the other side. So I had to keep switching back and forth. And I kept telling them, you're gonna have to give me some more. Because I would just metabolize stuff fast. I knew that as well, but they kind of weren't really listening. So then long story short with that, by the time I got to 10 centimeters, which happened quickly because they finally gave me Pitocin at 5 centimeters because I just stayed at 5 for a long time, for like a few
Mhm.
hours. And so they finally gave me Pitocin. And then, like, within an hour, I was at 10. And so I didn't have the epidural working anymore. I could just feel her there crowding. And I was like, okay, y'all, is there any way that we can like do something about this epidural? Like, I paid for an epidural. Like, what can we do? And so they were like, okay, well, her heart rate's good. So if you just keep your legs together, we can give it maybe 20 minutes and get some more of this epidural going. So I was like, well, let's try it. And then what was kind of cool is because I really wanted my mom there. So just Kellen was there originally. But she's the one who Malia was most comfortable with and able to stay with like overnight, to keep up with her overnight. And so she was with my mom, but it just so happened that that weekend my stepsister Kylie was in town. And so since I'd labored through the night, it was now like 10 in the morning. And I was like, hey, maybe Malia, because she's definitely up, maybe she would stay with Kylie and play with Kylie because she loves her. And mom could just jump over here real quick and be here just for the birth part. So I called mom. And so she jumped in the car. Malia didn't want her to leave. So Malia and Kylie both came, but they stayed in the car because you could still only have 2 people with you. So they stayed in the car and mom ran in and like, uh, again, I can feel like Sailor every contraction, like pushing out a bit and coming back in. And so all the nurses are out waiting for the doctor and getting their stuff prepped. And I looked at the guy with the anesthesiologist. I was like, do you know how to deliver babies just in case? Like, because definitely here. I don't want Kellen delivering it. So if these people don't get back in here in time, can you do this? And he was like, I
Mhm.
can't, but I would prefer not to. So I was like, okay, well, at least I can feel better about that. It's not on Kellen to make this happen. Like, so then long story short, mom and the doctor both walked through the door at the same time. And then she came out in 2 short pushes, like 2 minutes total. So super, super fast. Which I didn't know. I mean, it was nice for me, but then I know we've talked about, I didn't know it's actually kind of nice if you can have a longer labor because it pushes out the amniotic fluid in their lungs.
Mm.
And so she was like super congested for like 2 weeks afterwards, and it was super thick mucus. So her burp ups were always scary because they weren't just the burp up, it was also this thick mucus on top of it.
Mm.
And so one time she choked really bad on that. And we actually had to call 911 to make sure
Mm.
she was okay because she was like about to go blue and we couldn't get her to get a breath. We finally got her to before they arrived, but we still just had them come to make sure. So I learned it's like nice for it to be fast, but it is, if you have a longer labor, you guys just embrace and be like, this is helping the baby long term, like to not have some of those issues afterwards. But it took, yeah, a couple weeks and then that was all good. But so that was, I mean, hers just was pretty quick. Total the labor, I think, was 10 hours. Malia was 12, so it's pretty close, but still shorter. So it went really good. And I felt like rebounded faster after Sailor. I guess I don't know why. I did. I think it's just because it was less fluid and maybe just the way she sat. She did kind of mess up one of my ribs. All right. So yeah, so it was a lot easier with Sailor. Oh yeah, I remember what I was saying. I rebounded faster after Sailor, like physically, but she did. Yeah, she sat kind of like diagonal in my stomach the whole time, and I could tell one of her knees was like up under my right rib cage. And so I don't know. Somehow she kind of like bent my rib out, and so it's kind of just stayed that way. So that's kind of been a little bit of a weird like physical thing
Mm.
I've had to get used to, and it was like sore way longer than I remember being sore, like in my abdomen after Malia. And nobody told me that like your uterus hurts twice as bad afterwards.
Oh, yes.
Second kid, that
It's
was
yes, awful.
yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So, but otherwise she was just so easy. I think that's why I rebounded a lot faster because she was just so much easier than Malia. So like I could set
Mhm.
her down to do things like, and especially like Malia at this point loves working out with me, loves letting me do like business work, and she'll watch a
Mhm.
movie or things like that. So Malia's she's still high energy, but she will entertain herself more than obviously when she was a baby. So then Sailor just I could set her down to work out, you know what I mean? And things like that.
Mhm.
So I could get back to working out and stuff so much faster than I could with Malia and get like better quality workouts in. And so I think that was kind of a huge thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been really great. And I've loved having two. And because she was so easy too, has been a lot of fun, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, besides just
Yeah.
you know, a sickness spreads a lot easier when there's two, the second's gonna get it. So you just might as well brace for it and just know it's going to be a 2 week haul or so. So
Yeah.
besides that, but then I know we'll all have good immunity. So the last thing I just wanted to like, I thought would be kind of fun since we, with our guests, always kind of ask the abundance formula question. And you and I way back in the beginning did our own of like your response and mine. But just since this is sort of a recap almost of like how things went with COVID and the pandemic and stuff, like maybe what is your like family view of abundance, or what changed for you with your family perspective after going through all of that? And what does that mean to you now? Kind of abundance with your family.
Yeah. Um, can I answer in a minute? Arya's
Yeah.
freaking out.
I could say mine while you go figure that out.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm gonna
for
mute myself so you can't
yeah,
hear the
yeah.
scream. She's just like flipping out.
Okay. So for me, one thing that just the perspective shift from COVID was just like becoming again. I mean, I've always been really family focused, but like when you can't even access the outside world anymore, besides like social media, which I couldn't personally do very much because I had a kid then that was really busy and needed entertained. I couldn't take her out to play with other kids to entertain her, or put her in an activity for that activity to entertain her. So you had to you were kind of forced to interact with your family a lot more and think of things to do together, because and especially too like with work, we didn't talk about that. Funny things about now, like both being home at the same time, Kellen and I had funny experiences with that, where like he's not used to being home, so he was messing up like my schedule of things. And so like I would keep the dog food in a certain place in the dog water because Malia was going to get into it, and he'd already put it down, and next thing I knew my phone was in the water. So just but funny things you could even laugh at. But so everyone was home. And so it was kind of nice to just have like really amplified family time. Hi, Jack. Hi, Aria. And so for me, abundance became like just truly getting even more grateful for your family and grateful for the interactions that you got to have. Like, even with the family that we did get to see, it was just like really cool to just you were so grateful for other humans and like to get to be together. Like I definitely didn't appreciate as much as I thought being together with other people, outside of even your family or your friends, and especially just being together as a family to think of fun activities to do. You just got a lot more creative, put the phone aside, because again, like you couldn't really be on it long with kids, but even if you were, it was like people weren't really out doing much, so you kind of put the phone away and just interacted with your family. So I thought that was fun. And we thought of a lot more fun with traditions. So I just got a lot more grateful for having abundance of time with our family to be together and to enjoy each other, and just being grateful for everyone being healthy, like truly being healthy every day, and being grateful for the food you got to eat because you had food. Some people didn't get it. And the toilet paper you used, you just got a lot more grateful for all the things that you had. And everyone in the family appreciated the things you had a lot more, whether it's food, items, or each other. So that was kind of my perspective shift after COVID.
Unmuted. Okay. Yeah, I'm here with, they're both all beady eyed looking at
I'm shocked
the
both mine fell asleep
screen.
at the same time. I wore them out outside before, and thank the Lord it worked, because that would have been
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, Arya's gotten to the point with her nap that if she does take a nap this late, she won't go to bed till like 10. And usually, like, I've got my schedule where they're in bed by 7, and like to disturb that, I get very
Oh no.
ornery.
Yeah.
So I make her just push it through. But yeah, okay, so abundance in during the pandemic. Yeah, I think for me, I kind of touched on it before, but finding abundance in things that I wouldn't have before, like getting to know my neighbor. That's like so not something I would do. That is so not me. I mean, Gina knows me. I am such a recluse, and like it takes years to be friends with me. Not that I'm snobby, it's just it takes me a long time to open up to people and whatever.
Yeah.
um, but I found abundance in that. And it was just really cool because it was a total stranger, like no background on anything. We're not from the same area. We're not of the same religion. We're not, the only thing we had in common is we have kids. And she loves to cook. I love to clean. And anyway, it was really cool finding, making friends that I wouldn't have, or friend singular. I should clarify that. Singular, that I would never have had there not been a pandemic, because I'm such a go, go, go mom. Like, I love all the activities for my kids. We were doing stroller strides 3 times a week, kinder music once a week, swimming lessons, like everything. And, we were just never home. And so forcing you to be home and see who is actually around you, kind of like you said, with us, we were all, Brian was in class. And so, yes, our family did get to be together, but we were isolated in California anyway.
Right.
So that just kind of intensified. So for me, it was, and it was neighbors across the street. Like once our playgrounds did open, we only saw neighbor kids. We didn't see anybody else. And that was kind of fun. We got to know people from across the street, not close, but like I knew the kids' names of kids in the neighborhood. And it made me really grateful for our neighborhood as well. It's like a God thing to get the house that we got. And the pandemic just made that all the more clear.
Mhm.
There. Okay. Hi. Anyway, yes. So, yes, abundance in our neighborhood and the people in our neighborhood. It just made that a little piece of heaven there.
Yeah.
Children.
It's all heaven. Oh, it's so heavenly. Well, thanks for coming on, Jordan. I'm glad that we're back, and I'm excited. Yeah, our next episode we'll have one of my friends, Lori, who has a really neat, just totally different perspective with motherhood. She had a double mastectomy before her first child, and she'll tell us all about that. But just again, whole new perspective. That's why we love having this podcast segment, because there's so many different backgrounds of moms and stories and things they go through, and all the challenges and things. And so, yeah, that's what we love doing this for. So thanks so much, Jordan, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.